Chapter 31. Molly woke up to the sound of her alarm going off. For a minute or two, she lay on the bed looking at Lucky's ink-stained hands and listened to the rain, which was starting to pelt down outside. Their early morning adventure already seemed like a dream. Molly smiled and called room service to order some food. Lucky woke up to the smell of eggs and toast, and then he and Molly sat down for a TV brunch. The news channels were full of reports about gnomes, and the TV reporters were going bananas. This was a fabulous news story. On Channel 38, under an umbrella, a reporter was talking excitedly into a furry microphone outside Shoring's bank. Amazingly, the Shoring's jewels have all been returned. The bank has verified that every last pearl has been accounted for. Every diamond, ruby, and gem. In fact, goods to this value of $100 million, and the method of delivery adds a bizarre twist to what was already an incredible story. 25 garden gnomes stuffed full of the stolen property were discovered dotted about Manhattan in the early hours of this morning after an anonymous phone call. The male caller had a Chicago accent, but apart from that, nothing else is known about him. Police have released these pictures of the gnomes as they found them. The screen filled up with photographs of the gnomes looking startled in the darkness, lit with police flashlights like criminals caught in the act. They looked very funny. The reporter continued, "The reason for the return of the jewels is baffling some detectives. Some think that the robbery was some sort of dare. Others believe the robbers themselves were robbed. The police are asking the public for any information that could help them solve the mystery." Now back to the studio. "More, more!" Rocky shouted at the TV. "We want more pictures of the gnomes, and more of the police looking baffled." He fired the remote control at the TV, skimming through the channels, trying to find more news. "Ah," he complained. "Lunchtime news is over. I've never been on the news. That was brilliant." We were brilliant. We robbed that loot bank like professionals and returned the loot like undercover agents. Except we did have a few hiccups doing it. Rocky chuckled. "Molly, you didn't look quite so pleased with yourself at the bank when you thought you'd been caught on tape. Your face was so worried." Molly remembered and grinned. "Okay, but not half as freaked out as you looked when you thought we couldn't get past those eye scanners." Yeah, but what about you in Gramercy Park this morning when Petula was running off? I thought your bottom lip was going to fall off." Molly and Rocky laughed as they relived the scariest moments, scene by scene. "And the crazy thing? No one will ever know who did it or how it was done. In fact, you know what?" Rocky pointed out proudly. "This crime will go down in history." It would go down in history, Molly remembered. No, it would go down in history. Molly remembered how Knockman had hoped that for himself. Then she remembered some other things she'd said. Molly switched the TV off and started twiddling her napkin with her fingers. "You know, Rocky, I'm no better than Knockman, really. I'm a criminal, too." Rocky looked surprised. "Yeah, I am. Rocky, if you think about it, look at this place. I conned my way here. I conned people to pay for it. I conned Davina Natel out of her part. I conned the audience at Briarsville, so I stole the prize money, Billy. And I cheated all those other kids out of a chance to win at the talent show." "Oh, shut up," said Rocky lightheartedly. "You're a genius hypnotist. That's what you're good at. That's what your talent is." None of those other people in Briarsville could have gotten to New York with their talent. You're brilliant. Everyone's happy. New Yorkers loved your show. They had the best night of their lives. And Rixie and Barry love you. Just look at all the publicity you've got for them stars on Mars. You're not a real thief. You just get what you want using a different method from somebody else. The only thing you ever really stole was Davina Natel's part, and she wasn't an angel yourself, was she? You and I are the only ones who know the truth. So really, Molly, what does it matter? Yeah, I know, but being truthful is better, isn't it, Rocky? Okay, it is, but Molly, I'm not having you going on some kind of guilt trip now. Loosen up. Molly did feel guilty, but she felt more than that. Like a runaway horse that had galloped and galloped, she'd found herself in a place where she didn't really want to be. Being with Rocky had made her slow down and look about. Rocky, it's not just that. There's something else that is making me feel, well, bad. I know this hotel room is amazing and everything, but Rocky, I'm starting not to like being Molly Moon the star. Maybe I would if I really was the person who everyone thinks I am, but the thing is I'm not. I'm getting this tired of this thing where people like me just because they've been hypnotized to like me. People aren't liking the real me. They're liking something unreal, like an ad. They're liking a sort of fake Molly Moon, so it just makes the real me feel like rubbish and my life here is just a waste of time because I'm not the real Molly Moon. No one is going, no, the real life Molly Moon. She looked at Petula, sound asleep. I mean, even Petula doesn't properly like me. I hypnotized her to like me. Molly, but that was ages ago. Your hypnosis on Petula must have worn off by now. Worn off? What are you talking about? Molly, it doesn't last forever, you know. Didn't you realize? The lessons that animals or people learn from hypnosis can last forever, like Petula not eating chocolate cookies. She got into new habits that made her feel good, so she continued being like that. But the hypnotism doesn't last forever. Petula's not hypnotized anymore. But now she likes you because she does. So you mean the hypnotism I did on Barry Gregg and Rixie Bloomy will wear off? Molly's mouth fell open. Sure, eventually. They won't ever know that you were actually hypnotized, and they'll always remember you as brilliant. But if you didn't see them for 6 months, they wouldn't think you were as brilliant as they thought you were. You'd have to hypnotize them all over again. And the audience they hypnotized? The same. They'd remember you being good, but if they saw you on stage again, you'd have to hypnotize them afresh. Otherwise, they'd see your little singing and dancing routine for what it was. But how do you know all this? From the book, of course, said Rocky. Molly looked perplexed. Oh, whoops, he said, covering his mouth with his hand. It was written at the end of chapter 8. So that piece of vital information was in your pocket. Jeez. Sorry. Don't worry, said Molly thoughtfully after a few moments. So, hypnotism wears off. Well, you know what? The sparkle of my life here has worn off too. I wanted to leave New York with you and Petula anyway, but now that you've told me all this, I really want to go. Having to charm and hypnotize everyone all the time. What a nightmare. Where do you want to go? Asked Rocky. Molly looked up at the ceiling. I've been worrying, she admitted, about everybody at Hardwick House. Not Hazel or Gordon or Roger, but about Gemma and Jerry and Ruby and Jinx. So have I. Imagine what it must be like with Hazel in charge. It's probably worse than when Miss Adderstone was there. And it's all my fault. I bet Hazel has them doing all the work. I want to go back. But you, Rocky, you won't want to come back now that you've got your new parents. Ah, well, Molly, I've got something to tell you about the Albasters. They aren't very nice. Not very nice? No, in fact, they're horrible. Rocky proceeded to tell Molly about the dreadful Albasters, who had seemed wonderful the day they visited Hardwick House, but who had shown their true colors once back in the States. They'd been very, very strict, and Molly found their house much like a jail. They wanted me to dress in stiff, old-fashioned suits and make me sit inside doing puzzles or making origami. What's origami? You know, that Japanese art of folding paper? I wouldn't have minded doing it just a bit. It's just that they gave me a book to learn it from, and all the instructions were impossible to follow. All and they wanted me to do it all day long. All day? Well, a lot. They said it would discipline my mind. I hypnotized them, of course, to drop the origami. What else? Well, they didn't like me going out in case I muddied my clothes, or in case I caught a sickness from another kid. Not that I saw any other kids. The neighborhood is full of old people. Once, when I went on a walk, they called the police. I wouldn't have been allowed to sing or whistle or go for a walk or watch TV. They liked me reading, but only books that were ancient ones Miss Albaster had when she was a girl. Oh, and the food they ate was gross. They were both on special diets, so they had to eat their rabbit food with them. Rabbit food? Well, it looked like rabbit food. Sometimes it looked like cat food with goldfish food sprinkled on top. Everything they did was weird. Worst of all, I missed you. I mean, you're my family, Molly. I've known you forever. Molly felt all warm inside. Thanks, Rocky. There were a few moments of silence as the two smiled at each other, appreciating what they had. Then Molly asked, "But how will you get away?" "I'll hypnotize them that it never worked out because they didn't like me. I'll make them think that they sent me back and it was all for the best, that kind of thing." "It's going to be difficult disentangling myself from New York," said Molly, with dread in her voice. "You can fix everything," said Rocky thoughtfully. "I know what you could do, and I think I might know how you can make up for all the guilt about the conning you've been doing. You just need to make a few phone calls." So 10 minutes later, Molly was on the phone. "Yeah, Barry, so Petula was returned in the night, just like the Showing Bank gnomes," said Barry. "Yeah, like the gnomes. But you see, Barry, the whole thing has kind of freaked me out, and I've decided I want Davina to have the part back. I want to take a long break." "But I have to go," said Molly firmly. "I see. Well, Lixie and I and the cast will miss you." "Yes, I'll miss you too. Now, Barry, listen carefully. You must arrange for the hotel bill to be paid, and I want some wages. How much do you think is really fair?" "Well, considering the amount you've cost to keep in the cost of the massive magnifying glass balanced against the great publicity you've gotten the show, well, I think $30,000. "Okay," said Molly, very pleased by his thumbs. "Great. Please will you get that delivery to the Waldorf by 4 o'clock today? Oh, and I'll have it in cash." "Agreed." "And Barry, tell Dixie that I can't do the show again tonight. Let Laura, the understudy, do it. Oh, and talking of Laura, will you look after her, Barry? Make sure she gets a really good lead part in something. Take her under your wing, sort of thing." "Agreed. When no one is to know that I'm actually leaving until tomorrow." "Agreed. Tell Wixie you've had a long, long conversation with me and that I said goodbye." "Agreed. So goodbye, and thank you for everything." "Agreed," said Barry, and he put the phone down. "See, that wasn't so bad." "Was it?" said Rocky. "No," said Molly, although she was feeling slightly sad. She'd grown fond of the balmy old Barry Braggs, and she would miss him. What is up with these abrupt chapters? Let's see into chapter 1. We have achieved perfection. This is everything I'd hoped and more. They had a long conversation about what she was doing and why it was wrong. This is the character development I have been wanting since the beginning. Also, all those times I said she's a monster because, like, a permanent disability she had given people? I lied to you unknowingly. Hypnotism isn't permanent. That's great news for everyone Molly's hypnotized. Honestly, this chapter was everything I could have hoped for. We also got to know that my prediction was right. They're going back to the place. What are they gonna do with Knockman? I think they're just gonna bring Knockman back to Hardwick House too. Maybe he'll be like the butler there. That's my prediction. Anyway, end of the chapter.